This is a wonderful occasion to see you all right now. Hello, I'm Philip Bransford, Communications Officer with Washington County, and I use he, him pronouns. And we'll begin tonight's State of Our County Address 2024 with a land acknowledgement. We want to acknowledge the people on whose land we live, the Atfalati Kalapuyans, also known as the Tualatin Band of Kalapuyans, the first inhabitants of Washington County. We are grateful for the land we are on, Kalapuyan land. Signers of the Willamette Valley Treaty of 1855 were removed from their homelands to the Grand Ronde Indian Reservation. Today, their descendants are tribal members of Grand Ronde and the Silets tribes, carrying on the traditions and cultures of their ancestors. We acknowledge and express gratitude for the ancestors of this place and recognize that we are here because of their sacrifices forced upon them. In remembering these communities, we honor their legacy, their lives, their continuation in our community. Please reflect on the role government has played in the painful colonial history and reflect as well on the resilience and healing of the indigenous land and communities. We would like to invite everyone to collaborate and work together with the tribes to take care of the land and water and the people who inhabit these spaces. Thank you. And now we turn to the main event that begins with a special guest, Congresswoman Suzanne Bonamici. She has represented Washington County for over 20 years. She's done a great job as an advocate for us in Congress. Please welcome Congresswoman Bonamici.
Thank you, Philip, for the kind introduction. It's really great to be here this evening and to partner with Chair Harrington in Washington County on our shared priorities. I spend a lot of time in Washington County. It was in the district I represented in the state legislature and currently in the congressional district. It's the heart of the 1st Congressional District. Sadly, not all of Washington County is in the 1st District anymore. I share Washington County with the very capable Representative Andrea Salinas, but about 60% of the people I represent live right here in Washington County. My district office is in Beaverton. A shout out to my staff, Al and Kelsey. And it's my understanding, based on an expert from the Oregon Historical Society, that it's the first time a congressional office has ever been in Washington County. And I really do enjoy spending time in Hillsborough, Beaverton, Cornelius, Forest Grove, North Plains, Banks, and every place else I didn't mention that's in Washington County. And also, I live here. I've lived in Washington County for about 37 years and counting. So, and I really appreciate being here because I hear ideas and I see the great things that are happening here in Washington County, and I take those ideas back to Washington, D.C. with me. And there are many exciting things happening here. It's one of the fastest growing and most diverse counties in the state. And I applaud Washington County's commitment to expand affordable housing, to build permanent year-round shelters, to address the addiction crisis. Recently we had a great celebration at the groundbreaking for the Center for Addiction Triage and Treatment, CAT. I know this facility is going to make a tremendous difference in people's lives. They'll get a second chance and a better future. And I'm always looking for opportunities to partner with the chair and the commissioners to deliver federal funding whenever I can. That funding is so important, especially for projects that address affordable housing, aging infrastructure, and climate change. And the chair's leadership on housing affordability was really evident in a recent discussion I convened about Project Turnkey to create a federal program to really help transform empty buildings into housing. Not long ago, the chair also joined us at the Cedar Hills Rec Center to celebrate federal funding I secured for THPRD, a wonderful partner as well, to upgrade and renovate facilities. And I'll mention a few other projects that will make Washington County more resilient Hillsborough year-round shelter, renovation and construction, the Clean Water Services, Western Washington County Water Project, Forest Grove TV Highway, safety improvements. I always look for opportunities to help where I can. And I'm excited today to hear more about the state of the county from someone I've known and worked alongside for several years. Chair Kathryn Harrington is a champion for Washington County. I've seen her dedication and commitment to building partnerships to address the county's needs. So it is truly my honor to welcome Washington County Chair Kathryn Harrington. Thank you.
Clutch moment here when you get thirsty. Thank you, Congresswoman Bonamici. It's really a great honor to have you here for our 2024 State of the County Address. We appreciate your ongoing partnership and investment in our county. I'm also proud that we start with the land acknowledgement because it reminds us of our history and our commitment to remember that history. Before I begin the rest of my speech, I want to first ask for your participation in acknowledging the passing of one of our employees. Deputy Richard Thompson passed away yesterday while off duty in a tragic traffic crash. Deputy Thompson has served our community for over 2 decades. Our hearts are with his family and with each of his colleagues in the sheriff's office. Would you please join me in a moment of silence in honor of Deputy Thompson? Thank you. There's something different about tonight's address. It's the first time since the pandemic that we've been able to join together and meet here for the State of the County Address. So thanks for being here. I also want to thank and acknowledge my fellow district commissioners. District 4 Commissioner Jerry Willey, who is here tonight, as you can see, and District 1 Commissioner Nafisa Fai, who was just reelected. And District 2 Commissioner Pam Treese is not able to join us tonight. I want to give a special call out to District 3 Commissioner Roy Rogers, who's wrapping up his tenure with us here at Washington County at the end of the year. With nearly 40 years of dedicated service to Washington County, he is the longest serving county commissioner in Oregon. During his time in office, he's seen a county that has changed in so many ways, from a population of 300,000 people to more than double now. And we're now amongst one of the most diverse communities in Oregon. But with so much change, his values remain the same. He's pragmatic, hardworking, and compassionate. Roy, thank you for your dedication to our community, really. I also want to welcome Jason Snyder, who will serve as the commissioner from District 3 starting next January. And I offer a big congratulations to our first woman elected sheriff, Caprice Massey, who we hope is taking a much needed night off after a very hectic 24 hours. And I know that we look forward to our continued collaboration with her. I'd also like to invite my fellow elected officials who are here tonight. So please stand. I see you, Congresswoman Bonamici, state legislators, mayors, city councilors, THPRD directors, school board members. Thank you for your service. You do marvelous work for our community. Thank you for your collaboration. And now I want to give a special thanks to Election Manager Dan Forrester and his team in our Assessment and Taxation Department, who oversaw the recent May election. And while the primary and general elections get a lot of attention, our election staff is responsible for holding numerous elections throughout the year, including for school boards and cities. Holding elections is just one aspect of the way that our over 2,600 employees work for our community. Day in and day out, these dedicated public servants ensure that we're delivering on public safety, building and maintaining roads, balancing budgets, helping seniors access services, making sure that public health is maintained, and operating libraries, just to name a few. To provide these needed services, the board directs how the county uses its flexible general funds, which have been constrained for decades. In the last 3 years, we've had to make cuts as a result of these constraints, but our staff has shown resiliency and commitment to providing the best service to our community. I also want to thank the nearly 500 employees of Clean Water Services who protect the Tualatin River, deliver reliable service every day, and keep utility rates steady. You may recall that we, your elected county commissioners, also serve as Clean Water's Board of Directors. Fortunately for us, CWS uses some of the most innovative management techniques in the nation as it protects the river and our public health. Let's take a moment to thank these employees for their fabulous work. Next, I want to highlight a major milestone. We just adopted a new strategic plan. And when I say milestone, I really mean it. It's the first time in 30 years that we've had a new strategic plan in place. Thanks to input from staff, key advisory groups, and members of the public, we've modernized our mission statement, clarified guiding principles, and enhanced our approaches to services. This new plan aligns with our One Washington County vision for a local government unified around serving the public. It provides a strong foundation for the next 4 years, and then we'll reach out to our community as we update it in the years ahead. This strategic plan, along with our principles, priorities, and commitment to equity, has guided our work as we developed our annual budget for this upcoming next fiscal year. The Board of Commissioners just took final action on that $2 billion budget that preserves basic services and invests in key systems that needed to be modernized. All of this was done while facing an initial $10 million shortfall in our general fund. That fund is the most discretionary part of the budget. It pays for many of the traditional county services, such as elections, emergency management, operating the county jail, criminal prosecution, and so forth. This is the 3rd year we've faced budget shortfalls and had to make cuts to balance the budget. You would think that while our county is growing, our revenues would keep pace within our state's constrained property tax system, but they don't. Add to that, inflation and the cost of doing business also impact our financial situation. Many programs that rely on the general fund have been cut, while other programs with dedicated funding have not. Although we've made cuts, we looked to have the least impact on services, while still funding programs that are mandated by state and federal governments. And despite a constrained budget, we're investing in our strained public safety system. I'm pleased that this budget preserves alternatives to incarceration, including operating the Community Corrections Center at full capacity for the first time since the pandemic. We're also fully supporting our specialty courts that provide a unique venue for those dealing with mental illness, drug addiction, or the challenges facing our veterans or those affected by domestic violence. We're continuing our work with culturally specific nonprofits to implement promising prevention and diversion programs to reduce juvenile crime. Later, I will focus on the growing demands of our public safety system and solutions to expand capacity. But first, I want to highlight how we've been able to build additional critical capacity to meet the needs of our community. As the Congresswoman mentioned, in just over another year's time, our new Center for Addiction Triage and Treatment will open to help those who struggle with addiction. It will open in phases and provide substance use treatment that is accessible and responsible to our diverse community. It will be our first daily drop-off center, as well as a place for residential and outpatient treatment services. This project has been in the works for 5 years, and I'm proud to say that from the very beginning, it's been community-driven. Hundreds of people from a variety of cultural backgrounds have shared their input to ensure the center works for our community. I want to thank our Health and Human Services Department staff, our partners in our community, and the cities of Beaverton, Hillsborough, Cornelius, Forest Grove, and Tigard for the tremendous determination, vision, and care that you have been providing to help this dream become a reality. Our new treatment center will provide vital services and the promise of better outcomes. It will also help us deal with the drug addiction that contributes to homelessness. And as I've said many times, our goal is to make homelessness rare and brief. We use a housing-first, trauma-informed approach to get to the root causes of homelessness. It requires a system of care to touch each of the facets of the problem to help individuals transition into stable, permanent housing. We built this system of care with dedicated housing services funds that you, regional voters, approved in 2020. Revenues became available first in July of 2021 to help pay for outreach workers, shelter, placement into housing, rent assistance, and connections to mental health care and treatment for addiction. It's given us the tools we need to tackle homelessness and integrate mental health needs into our system of care. It's so powerful that voters opted to invest in their community and in some of our most vulnerable people. With our coordinated approach, we're also defying state and national trends. Rather than an uptick, we're seeing a decline in unsheltered individuals of over 35%. That's just great. In just under 3 years into the supportive housing services measure, outreach workers and our partners have eliminated 7 large and medium-sized encampments that had grown in our county. Across the entire program, we've moved over 2,000 formerly houseless people into stable housing with wraparound services and rental assistance. Yes. That's right, folks. With regional supportive housing dollars and hard work amongst our employees and partners, we have virtually eliminated houseless encampments in Washington County. Thank you. This is life-changing work, and I'd like to share a story about the successful transition from homelessness to housing. Please.
When I became homeless about 2 years ago after my son died, and I could no longer afford rent, I was in my car for about a month in the rain, starting November 30th, cold, wet. Someone told me about Just Compassion and mentioned what they referred to as their safe parking program. It meant everything. It meant the ability to feel like a person and not invisible. And also that there were people that actually cared, that were concerned for my well-being. Unfortunately, there's so many people like me, men and women. A lot of people lost homes, lost jobs, lost their lives as far as being able to be independent because of COVID. About 9 months altogether, but finally, a year ago this last July, I got my apartment. And I couldn't be more grateful.
Shoshona is just one example of how providing a system of care can deliver real change. Again, we cannot help people change their lives without the regional funds, dedicated staff, and partnerships throughout our community. Thank you to each of you who give people hope every single day. Our progress to date does not mean that the problem is solved. We remain vigilant and will continue to deliver our system of care. Today's homeless crisis has been decades in the making and reflects a complex set of circumstances and drivers. It will take significant time and resources to make progress, including making sure that individuals have a home to go to. We've been using the available affordable housing bond funds that regional voters approved back in 2018. That measure provided $192 million to the county and the cities of Beaverton and Hillsborough to build affordable homes. Between these three jurisdictions, we promised to build just over 1,300 apartment homes. Our priority was to create affordable homes for the hardest people to house, who are those with the lowest incomes. These individuals and families are also most at risk at becoming homeless. With all of the affordable housing bond funds spent or obligated, it's a good time to check in on our progress. In total, we will have 12 new affordable housing complexes throughout Washington County. 2 are still under construction and 2 more are in design. I'm proud to say that your county is exceeding its goals. We will have 18% more homes than we projected, creating over 1,500 homes. And we'll have more homes for extremely low-income households. The bottom line is that affordable rents combined with in-person wraparound services are at the core of reducing homelessness. These 2 regional funding measures, supporting construction and services, have truly been game changers for our community and our region. Regional voters passed these 2 important measures to give Clackamas, Multnomah, and Washington County the needed funds to address houselessness. And as I've described, Washington County is delivering on the promises we made to voters. Metro, our regional partner in this effort, is contemplating a plan to rewrite the voter-approved supportive housing services measure just 3 years into its 10-year life. This has led to complex conversations that reflect on the huge undertaking that our counties have committed to ramp up our services. It's amazing to see how the staff in each of our counties and our service providers have bravely worked on crafting programs and opportunities with these funds, which are reflected in the successes I discussed earlier. Counties are showing how we can build out successful programs that consider the continuum of needs. We also want to ensure that the funds the voters are providing us are spent in the service of transitioning people into shelter and into permanent homes. As Metro continues to pursue its proposal, we'll continue to be at the table with a focus on how best to deliver for our community. As I mentioned earlier, I wanted to do a deep dive on the unprecedented strains facing our public safety and justice system. I first want to note the role of our county public safety system, which is distinct from that of the cities. Our public safety services include supporting the courts, operating the jail and the community corrections center, prosecuting defendants, overseeing probation and parole and juvenile services, and support for victims, and law enforcement patrols in rural and urban unincorporated areas. We're making some investments that help deliver balanced public safety and justice systems with a goal of building community trust despite our constrained general fund. We're able to do this thanks to our entire public safety team, including our dedicated workforce and our partners. That dedication helps us remain one of the safest communities in Oregon. However, numerous challenges to the system have grown to a level where we need to leverage all possible resources to build resilience and preserve community safety. Here are just a few of the challenges. We have aging and outdated facilities, changes in laws that add complexity and extra workload year over year, inadequate state funding to implement those changes, and more people involved in our public safety system. We also have staffing challenges and a general fund not able to keep up with rising costs. A summary of these challenges was included in a recent comprehensive report requested by your Board of Commissioners and compiled by the Sheriff's Office, the District Attorney's Office, Community Corrections, and Juvenile Departments. The report summed up our experts' view of the system, saying it, quote, is in crisis. Even with the historic support for public safety in our community, it's become more and more challenging to deliver the services that not only hold offenders accountable, but also support crime prevention, victims assistance, and address the underlying drivers of criminal behavior. And while overall personal crimes are below the state and national averages, we've seen a troubling 30% growth rate over the most recent 5-year reporting period. There's also an alarming trend among juveniles, with more middle school-aged youth committing more violent crimes. And we're seeing more criminal referrals for youth aged 12 and under. We're seeing a criminal justice system disproportionately populated with Black and Hispanic adults and juveniles. The explosion of fentanyl and other substances is adding pressure to an already overwhelmed and underfunded mental health care system. Staffing shortages are keeping our jail at just 67% of capacity. Unfunded mandates are not new and are intended to solve problems. But these good intentions are having unintended consequences, impacting other areas of the public safety system without adequate resources to implement them. There have been significant changes in the law since 2019 that have added considerable strain to our public safety system. They include changes in how we handle some serious crimes, how we respond to the rapidly changing landscape around drug possession, increased workloads in community corrections, pretrial monitoring of defendants, and the list goes on. Looking ahead, we need to right-size our public safety and justice system. There are 4 major priorities. First, we need to provide more funds for prevention, victim assistance, and planning for future caseload growth. Second, we need to have adequate finances to implement mandates, including those directed towards community corrections and juvenile services. Third, we need adequate resources to support our highly effective specialty courts and the ability to expand them. And finally, we need to identify funding to replace our nearly 100-year-old courthouse. We're working with our state legislators to address those concerns and the need for additional funding sources. Our next 5-year public safety local option levy will be on the November 2025 ballot, and we're beginning discussions about how to structure that measure to meet the growing demand on our system. Moving forward, we'll have much more to talk about with our community, and I hope you'll join us for these conversations. Finally, one of my favorite ways we connect as a community is through our 16 libraries that make up the Washington County Cooperative Library Service. That cooperative includes 9 city libraries and 3 nonprofit ones. Our libraries are a place of lifelong learning, internet access, and community gatherings. They also adapt as more people shift to ebooks, audiobooks, and streaming videos. Demand for digital content has grown by upwards of 30% since 2020. And this year, the cooperative is increasing its digital spending by 14%. But over the years, the mission of libraries has remained the same and in some cases expanded. For example, our libraries routinely provide shelter during extreme weather and more support beyond what is traditionally done. In response, the library cooperative is identifying solutions to better meet community needs. Thanks to you, our voters, local option levies have helped fund our libraries for the past 20 years. And the next iteration will be on the ballot in 2025 as well. For both the library and the public safety funding measures, the board is working to right-size our funding requests to ensure we deliver the vital services you value. We're committed to making sure voters have access to the information needed to fully understand how your dollars can effectively support these services. As we close, clearly there's a lot going on in Washington County, but our mission remains the same. We are dedicated to service and implementing that and improving the lives of each of you as our residents. The state of our county is strong, and much of our success is due to what I like to call rock star leadership. I want to give a special shout out to our county administrator, Tanya Angie, and our CEO of Clean Water Services, Diane Taniguchi-Dennis. They each exemplify the work of being the best public servants and leaders. That is why each of these women have been selected to serve in national leadership roles. Ms. Angie will serve as the president of the International City County Management Association, becoming the 6th woman leader of that organization. And Ms. Taniguchi, it's great. And Ms. Taniguchi Dennis has been selected to serve as the president of the National Association of Clean Water Agencies, a national leader in clean water issues. Thank you for joining me and congratulating them. And thank you for your time. And please continue to connect with us and give us your feedback. By working together, we can keep Washington County a great place to live, work, and play. Thank you and good night.